Prashant, you got too much covered on the left, right. थोड़ा सा वहां से relax कर सकते हैं. So that way you can pull it over here on the middle. Yeah. Forget about live. Are we live on the Zoom first of all? We are live on Zoom. And Zoom participants are hearing our organizational dialogues. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraya Nashtraprayesha Bhadrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakta Bhavati Nashtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gautase Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Go Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we welcome everyone for today morning Srimad Bhagavatam class, part of our Bhagavat Life program. And we are reading from 4th canto. And today we are going to bring in from chapter 8, titled as Dhruva Maharaj leaves home for the forest. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Antilila, 10th chapter, verses 30 to 35, he writes as follows, while describing about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he says, in this way, the Lord would happily spend his days hearing Bhagavatam from Gadadhar, Gadadhar Pandit. Whenever Gadadhar would recite Bhagavatam, the Lord would manifest symptoms of love. The Lord would carefully hear the glories of Prahlad and Dhruva hundreds of times. He had no time for any other activity, but would always hear and chant the names and qualities of Krishna and his devotees. Such is the importance of this particular pastime that we are starting from today. Was favorite for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So how is the storyline going on the 4th canto? Let's quickly recap that. So, in the first chapter of this fourth canto, we had the lineage of Swayambhuva Manu and Shatrupa being described, who had two sons and three daughters, Akuti, Prasuti, Devhuti. Devhuti's life was discussed in the previous canto, third canto. And then Prasuti, who got married to Daksha, and then her family or lineage was discussed in context to Sati getting married to Lord Shiva, and that was the whole discussion so far. And now, in eighth chapter, the discussion will further continue. The daughters have been already discussed. So now the discussion of the lineage would be of the sons. Two sons, Uttanapat and Priyavrat. Although Priyavrat was elder, Uttanapat was younger. Interestingly, Sukhdev Goswami chose to speak before about Priyavrat Uttanapat. Or we can say this is a conversation between Vidurji and Maitrimani. Maitrimani chose to speak first about Uttanapat. Why he chose to speak first about Uttanapat? He was very eager to speak about Dhruva Maharaj. And there's a particular blessing hidden within the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj pastime is particularly blessed with, if anyone reads and hears Dhruva Maharaj pastime, just like Prahlad Maharaj, he would be greatly inspired in his devotional life and will develop detachment towards material gratification. So that's main subject matter like this, and therefore, matrimony, rather than getting into Priyavat Maharaj, he began to speak about Dhruva Maharaj or Uttanapad. So fourth canto or rest of the canto now would be about the lineage of Uttanapad, beginning with Dhruva Maharaj and what's the other brother, name of brother? Dhruva Maharaj and Uttama. And the fifth canto would be all about the lineage of Priyavrat Maharaj. And like that, by the end of fifth canto, more or less the lineage of Swayambhu Muna would be described. And then the sixth canto will begin with Parikshit Maharaj at the end of the fifth canto, hearing about the hellish planets. So then the sixth canto begins with Parikshit Maharaj inquiring, what is the way out for a living entity, particularly for the human beings? Going to the hellish planet doesn't seem like a solution. They go to the hellish planet, they get reaction, punishment, they come back and again commit those same sinful actions. And that's how the sixth canto begins. And the chapter, the discussion a little bit changes, the storyline a little changes. In other words, to help you remember what's the discussion going on, the half of third canto, later half, fourth and fifth, this 2.5 canto is more or less about the family of Swayambhu Manu and Shatrupa, and they deserve that attention because Swayambhu Manu was the first human being, as per se, man, and Shatrupa was the first female of this creation. And from there, the whole human civilization started with. All right, so these are some quick points. During this course of discussion, we are going to cover today up to 23 verses, up to 23. So this has around 82 verses. So let's see, I'll at least try to cover first 23 verses today. The first 5 verses, lineage of Adharma. Then next 6 to 16, the story of Dhruva Maharaj begins. And then 17 to 23rd verse will be about Sarati advising Dhruva Maharaj about his course of action. So I'll have two key lessons to highlight, which I was, while quickly going through today morning, reflected upon. The first key lesson would be on the topic of attachment versus affection, how attachment blinds and how affection allows us to serve and liberate. The second lesson, I thought I'll just highlight the lessons here in a frame of mind to pay attention to it. And the second lesson is how a devotee can transform calamity into a blessing. In fact, it is only a prerogative of a devotee to be able to transform calamity into a blessing. So these are the two things. We'll take a look at it. And let's begin with the text number 1. Maitrevacha Shanakadaya Naradascha Rubhurhamsho Runaryatihi Naite Grahan Brahmasuta Hi Avasan Urdhvareta Saha The great sage Maitreya said the four great Kumaras or Kumar sages headed by Shanak as well as Nada, Ribhu, Hamsa, Aruni and Yati, all sons of Brahma did not live at home but became Urdhva Reta. Reta refers to semen, Urdhva means flowing upwards. Or Nashtika Brahmacharis. There are four kinds of Brahmacharis, but the first two are Nashtika and Upakurvana Brahmachari. Nashtika Brahmachari refers to celibate all life long. Upakurvana Brahmachari refers to a Grahastha who only for the purpose of procreation acts, not for anything else. Otherwise, he is also a celibate. So, the first verse forms the foundation of our afternoon Brahmachari class. So, today we'll be discussing an afternoon from this, but let's take a look at it. Or maybe we should reserve for the afternoon class only. Not sure if it is needed for everyone at this point in time. ठीक है, पढ़ लेते हैं. The system of brahmacharya has been current since the birth of Brahma. A section of the population, especially male, did not marry at all. Instead of allowing their semen to be driven downwards, they used to lift the semen up to the brain. They are called urdhva retasaha. Those who lift up. Semen is so important that if by the yogic process one can lift the semen up to the brain, he can perform wonderful work. One's memory is enabled to act very swiftly, duration of life is increased. Yogi can thus perform all kinds of austerity with steadiness and be elevated to the highest perfectional stage, even to the spiritual world. One aspect of brahmacharya is it gives you a strong willpower. There are three kinds of wills: God wills, free wills, and evil. So, with brahmacharya, your free will becomes very strong. Determination is only found in brahmacharya. Jo kaha, so karo. So, externally we need to train our mind, whatever we say we do it, but internally that ability to do what we said comes from brahmacharya. So, brahmacharya, as we were discussing last afternoon in one forum, brahmacharya is not only about celibacy, that's a narrow sense of meaning. In a more broader sense, brahmacharya means control on senses. That is brahmacharya. So we have to have understanding of that. Vivid example of brahmacharis who accepted this principle of life are the four sages or four Kumaras and Narada and others. Another significant phrase here is Naite Grahani Avasan, meaning of home. They did not live at home. Graha means home as well as wife. In fact, home means wife. Home does not mean a room or a house. One who lives with a wife lives at home. Otherwise, a sannyasi brahmachari, even though he may live in a room or a house, he does not live at home. That means ashram. Ashram refers to a place where the lordship resides and everything else functions around him. Therefore, brahmacharya ashram, grahastha ashram. The moment the word graha comes, graha refers to home. Graha se aate hai grahani, which means wife. There is no meaning to word graha if there is no grahani. So that's the idea of it. But in case of brahmachari, is brahmachari ashram. There is no meaning to word brahmachari if brahmachari is not living with a guru. You know. So for a man in grahastha ashram, the guru is wife. I mean, I'm just joking in that way. But somebody has to oversee, right? But in one way, it's correct. You will see that later on. The role of a wife, the wife acts as a fortress to the man to control his senses. You know, she doesn't allow the enemy to penetrate the kingdom. What are the enemies? Kama, Krodha, Lobha. Particularly lust is their foremost enemy. So the wife acts as a fortress for the king, who's running the kingdom. So like that, in that way is correct also. I don't know why you guys smile on this topic, huh? All right. Even though he may live in a room or in a house, doesn't live at home. They did not live at home means they did not accept a wife. And so there was no question of their discharging semen. Semen is meant to be discharged when one has home, wife, and the intention to beget children. Otherwise, there is no injunction for discharging semen. These principles were followed from the beginning of creation. And as such, brahmacharis never created progeny. This narration is dealt with descendants of Lord Brahma from Manu's daughter Prasuti. Prasuti doctor was Dakshayani, so that we have described here. All right. So out of the many sons of Brahma, the Brahmachari sons headed by Sanak Narada did not marry at all, and therefore there is no question of narrating the history of their descendants. That's the reason Prabhupada is saying why the discussion on Swayambhuva and Satrupa is happening. Swayambhuva, Manu and Satrupa, because they had lineage. And while other sons of Brahma like Narada and Kumar, they did not marry. So there is a question of discussion about their bacha party. All right. So text number 2. So for the brahmacharis for whom we have started brahmachari forum, please make a note of this point. Brahmacharya has been practiced from the beginning of the creation. And modern day psychologists, they say if you follow celibacy, you will become crazy. Proves they are crazy for making such a crazy claim. Text number 2. मृषा धर्मस्य भारस्यासेत् दम्भ माया च शत्रुहन् असुता मिथुनं तत्तु नृत्य जघ्रे प्रजः. Another son of Lord Brahma was irreligion, adharmasya, whose wife, bharya. Bharya is another word in Sanskrit for wife. I don't know what bharya. In Hindi, bhar means boja. So bharya means maybe who carries the boja of the family. I don't know. Bharya. Another son of Brahma was the religion whose wife's name was falsity. From their combination were born two demons named Damba, bluffing, and Maya, cheating. These two demons were taken by a demon named Nirti, who had no children. So I believe I recently spoke about cheating, no lying recently, right? I believe that was on Sunday morning. So I said for 2025, we have to take a resolution that we're not going to cheat. 3 things I said in that. That was in Sadachar or what category? Lift your notes because, often I speak spontaneously, so I don't remember. What was it? Oh, yeah. That was about, it was about 17th chapter, verse number 16. Manaprasada samyatvam maunamatma vinigraha. Maunamatma vinigraha. Maunamatma vinigraha. Pavasam shuddhiriti etat tapamana samuchyate. So there we talked about it. So no lying, no cheating. That was the point. So that's how. So you see, who is the wife of irreligion? Falsity, speaking lie. And who is the son of adharma and falsity? Is cheating. So in one way, when we do that, we are following adharma. Anyways, Papa says in the Papa, it is understood herein that adharma religion was also a son of Brahma, and he married his sister Rasha. This is the beginning of sex life between brother and sister. Some religion have that practice, I believe. So adharma. This unnatural combination of sex life can be possible in one society only when there is adharma or religion. It is understood that in the beginning of creation, Brahma created not only saintly sons, but also the demonic offspring, like Niriti, Adharma, Dhamma, and falsity. Why? Why would any thought about it? ब्रह्मा जी इतनी बड़ी गलती क्यों करी आपने? ये जीवन कितना शुभ होता, इस जगत में कोई संकट नहीं होता, युद्ध नहीं होता अगर आपने अधर्म को जन्म नहीं दिया होता. Quick, why he had to give पुरानी इच्छाएं? What else? What else? Lord Shri Krishna in 16th chapter says, Arjuna, in this world there are always 2 kind of beings, Sura and Asura. And Asura is needed for destruction. If there is no Asura, destruction will not happen. And all these Asuras, therefore, are the followers of Lord Shiva. And what does Lord Shiva do? Destruction. You got the whole cycle? That's the whole connection over here. Okay, text number 3. Let's read the translation. Maitreya told Vidura, O great soul, from Damba and Maya. So Damba means falsity, right? Damba means bluffing, Damba. Damba also refers to pride. Damba means bluffing. Bluffing got married to Maya. And from there came greed and cunningness. From their combination came Krodha and envy. From their combination were born Kali and his sister, harsh speech. I I actually did not read that section. I started in the Ruma section. Otherwise, I would have done a nice analysis for it. So I'll just make quick points on the fly that I can think of here. I would say it will be a worthy exercise to, when I had studied, I had drawn a chart for it. It will be a worthy exercise for you to draw the chart and see the connection of each of this. So as we were making a point, I hope you'll be able to take it a little seriousness. Where I was saying, Mana Prasada Samyatam, Mauna Matma Vinigraha. And in that, we were describing simplicity, no lie, no cheating. And for the leadership forum, I was emphasizing, super emphasizing, Jo bola so karo. I hope are you getting that connection here? It all aligns us with dharma. Even while practicing devotees and so forth, if we are not careful of it, we might get caught up with adharma. And so much so, look at here, krodha, anger, envy. Now you see why Lord Shiva's anger was not so much appreciated by the wives of the priests, and they blamed Shiva directly for destroying because there was a disproportionate anger. Similarly, envy. So these are the things we need to be careful of it. And the consequence of that is harsh speech. So if you understand, if you draw this flow chart, you'll understand what is the connection of what and from where it all started from. So that helps in that way for your understanding. Now, what happened when Kali and harsh speech got married? They gave birth to death and fear. They gave birth to death and fear. And from the combination of death and fear came excess of pain and hellish condition of life. Text number 5. My dear Vadura, I have summarily explained the causes of devastation. You got it? So asura. So these all are needed for devastation. But here's the description 3 times attains piety and washes the sinful contamination from his soul. So we need to hear it multiple times to be completely terrified of these things. The creation takes place on the principle of goodness, but devastation takes place on the principle of religion or ignorance. That is the way of material creation, devastation. He stated the cause of devastation is adharma. The descendants of adharma and falsity born one after another are bluffing, cheating, greed, cunning, anger, envy, quarrel, hate speech, death, fear, severe pain, and hell. All these descendants are described as signs of devastation. Yes or no? All the battle starts because of what? All the conflict starts because of what? Somebody spoke a little harshly. Or somebody became envious of somebody else's progress. Or somebody became angry at somebody else, isn't it? Lust, otherwise, somebody became too lusty or too greedy for somebody else's opulences. These are the cause of devastation. Therefore, I was giving you a connection with Bhagavad Gita. Sura and Asura, what is the need for Asura? They're required for devastation. And now you understood how devastation happens like this. So, in other words, if you don't want to bring devastation in one's spiritual life, and if we want to keep devastation away from our spiritual life, we need to be careful of these elements. That we do not identify and we do not act under the influence of these adharmic elements. If a person is pious and hears about these causes of devastation, he will feel hatred for all of these, and that will cause his advancement in a life of piety. Piety refers to the process of cleansing the heart. So now, when it is said there are 6 enemies lurking in our heart, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsarya, you can understand and develop some kind of a little bit hatredness for these things, that how essential it is for me to throw these elements out of my heart and consciousness, because otherwise I'm sitting on the lap of adharma. After wearing a tilak and having a nice shikha with the ironed colorful dhoti kurta, I'm sitting on the lap of adharma. So that's the idea over here. As recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one has to cleanse the dust from the mirror of the mind, and then advancement of the path of liberation begins. So here also the same process recommended. Malam means contamination. Amalam is pure. We should learn to despise, which means hate, other causes of devastation beginning from religion, cheating, and then we should be able to make advancement in the life of piety. Very important point Prabhupada is saying. Unless we develop distaste, unless we dislike or despise or hate these things, our life of piety will not begin. Till the point of time we are comfortable living with these anarthas, otherwise we call as kama, krodha, lobha, moha, like that, particularly anger, greed, our ability to speak a lie regularly, you cheat others, not fulfilling one's commitments and words, unless we develop a hatred for it, we'll not be able to rise above it. That's the point Prabhupada is saying. The possibility of our attaining Krishna consciousness will be easier, and we shall not be subjected to repeated devastation. The present life is a repeated birth and death, but if we seek the path of liberation, we may be saved from repeated suffering. So, conclusion of this particular section, the first 5 verses is we need to have a strong dislike within us for speaking lie, for being cunning, for cheating others, or for bluffing, for being greedy, for being envy, for becoming angry, etc. These all are principles of adharma. We have to develop a strong dislike for it. All right, let's continue with the main subject for it. Text number 6. Maitreya continued, O best of the Kuru dynasty, I shall now describe before you the descendants of Swayambhuva Manu, who was born of a part of a plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Papa says, why discuss the descendants of Manu in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam? Bhagavatam is about Bhagavad Dharma. Bhagavad Dharma is about the glories of the Lord. Why discuss someone else's sex life? That's what family life is, talking about descendants. This is Prabhupada words, huh? In Gujarati said like this. So Prabhupada says, in the middle of the purport, the great sage Maitreya is now going to explain about the descendants of this Manu, all of whom are widely celebrated for their pious activities. Before speaking of these pious descendants, Maitreya has already described the descendants of impious activities. Purposely, therefore, he is next relating the history of the life of Dhruva Maharaj and the most pious king within the universe. Pious over here referring to spiritual piety. In other words, they were all great devotees of the Lord. Text number 7, particularly, as I said, Maitreya Muni will choose to speak about Uttanapat first, then Priyavat Maharaj. He was very eager to speak about Dhruva Maharaj. And how Dhruva Maharaj's story was favorite for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I opened our today's discussion by reading a section from Chaitanya Bhagavat. All right, let's start our discussion. So, Swayambhuva Manu had two competent sons, Priya Vrat Utana Padau, Shatrupa Pate, Suto means son, whose son? Shatrupa Pate, the husband of Shatrupa, who? Swayambhuva Manu. He had two sons, Vasudevasya Kalaya, Rakshayam Jagatah Situhu. Beautiful verse, huh? Swayambhuva Manu had two sons by his wife, whose names were Uttanapad and Priyavrat, because both of them were descendants of Vasudevasya Kalaya. Kalaya means expansion, plenary expansion. They were Rakshayam Jagatah Situhu. They were there for protecting the citizens. They were competent to rule the universe, to maintain and protect the citizens. Text number 8. Jaye Uttanapadasya Sunitihi Suruchistayo Suruchihi Preyasi Patyo Netaraya Suto Dhruvaha. Jaye Uttanapadasya. Let us begin to talk about Jai. Of the two wives, Uttanapadasya. Uttanapad had two wives. One was the name Suniti, other was Suruchi. Tayoho, both of them. Suruchi, however, out of both of them, Tayoho, Suruchi Preyasi Patyo. Suruchi was more dear to her husband. Netar na itaraha yes suto dhruvaha. But the other wife was not so dear. And the other wife was Suniti, who had a son by the name of Dhruva. As the wife was not favorite, so the son was also not the favorite. So Prabhupada talks about here. Priyavrat was the first son of Swayambhuva Manu. Uttanapad was the second. But the great sage Maitreya immediately began to speak, because Maitreya was eager to describe pious activity. Pious activity means pure devotional service here, literally, huh? Like that. The incidents in the life of Dhruva are very attractive for devotees. Prabhupada gives why. First reason, one can learn how can one detach himself from material possessions. First reason. Second, how one can enhance one's devotional service by austerity and penances. By hearing the activities of pious Dhruva, one can enhance one's faith in Krishna and can directly connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, one can very soon be elevated to the transcendental platform devotion. That's the purpose. We are now starting to study about Dhruva's life. The example of Dhruva's austerities can immediately generate a feeling of devotional service in the hearts of the hearers. I'll give you an example. Once in Brahmachari Ashram, we were having this discussion of Dhruva's story. And for everyone, Dhruva became a hero when this Dhruva stories was, discussed between the brahmacharis. And in Brahmachari Ashram, we have a culture of putting a name to our room. Which was the one where Dhruva had performed austerities? Madhuvan. So most of us went and changed our room name from Mayapur, from Vrindavan to Madhuvan. Such was the inspiration from Dhruva's. Abhi right now we'll just discuss about the setting the scene of Dhruva's story. But when it comes to the 6 months of austerities, is a very, very inspiring subject matter for brahmacharis who ideally should have taste for not only for prasadam and sweets, but also for austerities. So that's how it becomes a very beautiful subject. Text number 9. Ekada surachay putram ankamaropya lalayan uttamam narurukshantam dhruvam raja bhayanandata. Ekada. Simple Sanskrit here. Fortunately, sometimes in Bhagavatam, there's straightforward Sanskrit. Ekada surachay putram. Once upon a time, Putram, the son of Suruchi, what was his name? Uttamam narurukshantam. Uttama, anakam aropya lalayan. Lalayan means petting, pampering. So once upon a time, Uttama was son of Suruchi. Ankam aropya, he was pleased. Anka means lap. So Uttama was sitting on the lap of his father, Uttanapad, and Uttanapad was sitting on the lap of his throne. So indirectly, Uttama was sitting on the throne. That's an indirect way. Dhruvam Raja Bhayanandataha. At that point of time, Dhruva Maharaj, who was just 5 years old, entered the palace of the king, where he saw Uttama was sitting on his lap and Uttanapad was petting Uttama. So those of your parents can very easily guess what Dhruva Maharaj would have done next. What Dhruva would do, or what a kid would do. When I see his sibling is sitting on the lap of the father or mother, what would the other child would do? He would also run to grab the other lap of the mother or father. And maybe Kali sibling, after climbing up, may try to push the other brother. Tu tar, main बैठूंगा अकेला. That possibly happen करिएगा. Text number 10. तथा चिकित्समानं तम् सप्तन्यास्तनयं ध्रुवम् सुरुचि शन्वतो राज्ञः शेष्यम् आहित गरिप्ता आह अति गर्वितः. Aha ati garvita. Sorry for my mistake there. So what happened? Let's be through the translation. Take another too long. While the child, so okay, let's go with the verse actually. It will make us appreciate the story. So thus, Chikish Shamanam Tam. So what did the child do? When he saw his brother sitting on the lap of his father, he was like, wow, wonderful. I also want to sit. He ran and he tried climbing up the other lap of his father. Saptanyas Tanayam Dhruvam, like this, like Saptanyas, like the son of Suruchi was doing. Suruchi Shinvatoho Ragya, and Suruchi spoke. Shinvato is to hear, Ragya. So Suruchi spoke, audible enough, which was audible to king also. Suruchi spoke. कहते हैं आपका Seshyam sa irshayam. That is sa irshayam aha ati garvitaha. She spoke with irshya, envy. Aha said ati garvitaha, which was very painful, of being too proud. While the child was trying to get on the lap of his father, Suruchi's stepmother became very envious of the child. And with great pride, she began to speak so as to be heard by the king himself. I mean, we are not talking about Asura here. Uttanapad is whose son? Swayambhu Manu. He's whose son? Brahma. And the great Brahma is a pure devotee of the Lord, this particular Brahma. Swayambhu Manu is a pure devotee of the Lord. Uttanapad is a great devotee of the Lord, if not pure devotee at this point in time. So he would not get married to any lady, which means Suruchi and Sunati are extremely qualified themselves. Come, Suruchi acted so the kingdom would be given to Yudhishthira Maharaj. How dare he gets it? And if that was a fact, then why was I raised as a prince, as a future king from the beginning? I was pampered all this while. Now nobody's paying attention to me. Everybody is paying attention to Pandavas. They're more cultured, although they're coming from the forest. Now here, anyone would become envious. Yes? Because it's circumstantial. Here, a 5-year-old Dhruva, so innocent. He's climbing the lap of his father. Look how far Suruchi is thinking. And look what Suruchi will say ahead. And then we'll come back to what Prabhupada writes in the purport. And then we'll make 1 or 2 points. Let's go to text number 11 and then we'll come back to the purport of text 10. Navassa narpate dishnyam bhavanarodham arhati nagrito maya yatvam kupsha apin narpatam jaha narpa atma jaha. Suruchi told to Dhruva, my dear child, you do not deserve to sit on the throne or on the lap of the king. Surely you're also the son of the king, but because you did not take your birth from my womb, you're not qualified to sit on your father's lap. This is just the beginning. Look what she says next. Balosi vatanatmanam anyastri garva samratam nunam ved bhavan yasya dullabhe artha manorataha. My dear child, looks like Prabhupada wedded here, okay? Oh Dhruva, you're unaware that you were born not of my womb, but of another woman. Therefore, you should know that your attempt is doomed to failure. You're trying to fulfill a desire which is impossible to fulfill. बेचारा पिता की गोद में बैठ रहा था. अब पिता थ्रोन पे बैठे थे, बेटे को थोड़ा ना पता था इतना. And she has concocted a whole story out of it. And in the following verse, now she will tell him, go and commit suicide. This is height of what she's going to speak. Now, next verse. Tapasaradhya purusham tasya vanugrahena me garvetam usadi atmanam yadichasi narpasanam. So she's saying, if you at all desire to rise to the throne of the king, then you have to undergo severe austerities. First of all, you must satisfy the Lord. And then when he's pleased with you, you are favored by him because of such worship. You should have to take your next birth from my womb. So your this birth is useless. Go and commit suicide. Before you commit suicide, you become Bhuta and torture me. Go and worship Lord Vishnu. If you get his favor, then ask for a blessing that after quitting your life, you can take a birth from my womb. How do you feel about this action of a conduct of Suruchi? नाम बहुत अच्छा है, Suruchi. Suniti. Su means amplification. Ruchi, which will amplify pleasure for the king. Suruchi. Any thoughts about here? She has no reason to be envious. Just a 5-year-old boy. And now let's go back to the text 10. Let's look into the nature of the human being. The king, of course, and the worst part was here is Suruchi Shanvatoragya. Suruchi spoke loud enough. The king did not say anything. Uttanapad also did not correct Suruchi here. So let's talk about the first principle that we want to highlight: attachment versus affection. I recently have spoken about this attachment versus affection. I'm re-emphasizing here so that it begins to dawn upon us. Attachment versus affection. And the king heard what Suruchi is saying, but he could not say no. So there are two things. One is we do not want to say no, and second is we cannot say no. Are you understanding the difference, gulf of difference here? We do not want to say no, but I'll have to say no because that is the right thing to say. We cannot say no. We have surrendered. So when it is, so now if in a relationship, if you want to understand if you're attached or having affection relationship, if in a relationship you're in a situation where you cannot say no, then it turns out to be attachment. Now, don't say, in relationship of Krishna and the pure devotees here. It's about when somebody is doing wrong in that context. Suruchi was wrong. Duryodhana was wrong. Dhritarashtra should have corrected. And Uttanapa should have corrected. When somebody is doing wrong, yet you're not able to correct that person, that indicates your attachment. In affection, you do not want to say no. You don't want to, but you will say no. You're wrong. And here we see Uttanapa's attachment to Suruchi, which blinded him so much so that he brought about great suffering for oneself and for everyone else. As the Romaj and soon in some verses would leave for the forest like that. So we spoke about affection and attachment. Affection blinds, attachment blinds. Attachment leads to destruction, and attachment leads to insecurity and fear. While affection, it empowers the relationship, it helps in course correction, and affection allows paves the way for liberation. In other words, it's a liberating experience. So you have to see what kind of relationship we are having. All right. Mara, despite his feelings, okay. So first thing we learn here about is a handpicked husband. Because of his favoritism toward his queen Suruchi, he could not welcome Dhruva. Despite his feelings, King Uttanapa's feelings was understood by Suruchi, and therefore with great pride she began to speak. So in other words, when Dhruva was trying to climb up the ladder, Uttanapa did not pay attention to Dhruva. And Suruchi could understand that this man is under my influence. Therefore, she became more confident to speak like this. Can you imagine to speak like this words in front of the husband? So that's how she became confident. And therefore, with great pride, she began to speak about the king's affection for her. This is the nature of woman. If a woman understands that her husband regards her as a favorite and especially affectionate to her, she takes undue advantage. These symptoms are visible even in such an elevated society as the family of Swayambhuva Manu. Therefore, it is concluded that the feminine nature of woman is present everywhere. This is not about Shura and Asura. This is about the makeup of this creation, masculine and the feminine nature. Similarly, the feminine nature here represents, in one sense, for us, sense objects. The moment we allow Maya, the moment we develop our attraction towards Maya, the sense objects, then we are literally controlled by those sense objects. Do you see that in today's time? Mobile phone has been created for our utility. Rather, we are getting utilized by the smartphone, the social media. So that's the whole idea. That's Prakriti, right? Feminine nature. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.5, 4 and 5 verse. So that we are also Prakriti, but what is it? Aparayam, huh? So anyways, 7.5th verse where Krishna says, Jiva Bhuta Mahabhav Dharitam Jagat. So he is a superior energy, where Prakriti is inferior energy. But because he has become attached to the inferior energy is dominating the superior energy. So we come from that nature, and that manifestation of that in the world we see between male and female relationship. Text number 11, puppet. Prabhupada writes in the middle of the puppet, and the last few lines. In other words, she indirectly informed Dhroma that although he happened to be born of the king, he was considered an illegitimate son because of his birth from the womb of the other queen. Text number 12, we already read, so reading the puppet. The small child Dhruva was naturally affectionate towards his father. He did not know that there was a distinction between his two mothers. This distinction was pointed out by Queen Suruchi, who informed him that since he was a child, he did not understand the distinction between the two queens. This is another statement of Queen Suruchi's pride. And what should Dhruva do? Uh, Dhruva should go to the forest, worship the Supreme Personality Godhead. Now, this is another evidence of how Suruchi has come from a very cultured background. She was not demonic by nature. Otherwise, why would she send or tell Dhruva, go and seek favor from the Supreme Lord? So, despite coming from a highly cultured background and maybe from a devotee background, she's saying, go to Lord Vishnu, not to Brahma, not to some Amma and Baba. Yes? So, it looks like even she's coming from that devotee background. That time also she acted like that, and Prabhupada saying that is what is the nature of Prakriti, of feminine nature. Prabhupada writes in the purport. And Uttanapad all this while is listening to all this. And this is what family entanglement means. At times we know our family member is wrong, yet we cannot do anything about it because of attachment. Puppet. Suruchi was so, and we see that classic example in Lord Rama's life. Although Mother Sita was all pure, yet because one washerman criticized Lord Rama for bringing back Mother Sita in his life, despite Sita being away for so long, he let go of Mother Sita. That's a very important principle that Lord Ram taught, which attached people cannot understand. Suruchi was so envious of Dhruva Maharaj that she indirectly asked him to change his body. According to her, Prabhupada writes, first of all, he had to die, then take his body, next body in her womb. Only then would it be possible for Dhruva Maharaj to ascend the throne of his father. I mean, how much she must be seething with anger and envy. And that too, when the husband was hardly anyways paying any attention to Suniti. I'm just not able to understand why she has to be so envious. Here, the envy was because she had become proud. So, a very important point. So, envy is not only it manifests because you're insecure or because you are a loser. Envy also manifests for those who become proud of what they have. When they become proud, then they become very rash. And the envy manifests and takes another flavor. That's what you see here. Suruchi had no reason to fear Uttama is going to be next king. The husband paid no attention to Suniti. But why she had to speak so harshly? Not because of insecurity. So every envy does not arise from insecurity, because of her pride. And that pride let her speak any nonsense that she could speak. Text number 14. Maitrivacha. My dear Vidura, what happened next? As a snake when stuck by a stick, breathes very hastily. Have you ever seen a snake hissing? Our NBCC, we have found so many snakes so many times. And, we'll call the guard will come with a stick. And, if it's really a venomous snake, they might try to kill the snake on the spot, or else they'll capture the snake. And we have seen it so many times, the snake would hiss. They make a huge sound. Even if I'm standing in the ashram building looking from my room, I can hear that. If they're in the close proximity, hissing sound. So like that, Dhruva began to breathe. Dhruva Maharaj, having been struck by the strong words of his stepmother, began to breathe very heavily because of great anger. When he saw that his father was silent and did not protest, he immediately left the palace and went to his mother. This is the nature of this world. Even a 5-year-old, are not spared from the harsh realities of life in this world. 5-year-old of Satya Yuga, son of Uttanapad. Can you imagine how cute, how wonderful as a child Dhruva would be? If you find today's child cute and adorable and cultured, can you just imagine how cultured, adorable, loving Dhruva would be? Satya Yuga son. And to them to speak something like this, Wow, that is too much, too far out. What did Dhruva do? When Dhruva Maharaj reached his mother, his lips were trembling in anger. He was crying very grievously. Queen Suniti immediately lifted her son onto her lap. While the palace residents, who had heard all the harsh words of Suruchi, related everything in detail, then thus Suniti also became greatly aggrieved. Hmm. So, important lesson to add from here: harsh speech is very painful. Should be careful. Now, what happened? Suniti is deeply pained by what? Because of the harsh words of Suruchi here. So, Sosrajya dhairyam vilalapa shoka davaganena davalati bala वाक्यं सप्न्या स्मरति सरोजा श्रिया दृशा बाष्पकलामुवाह. So here, Maithimani says, the face of Sunati was Saroja Shriya. Saroj means lotus, Shriya means beautiful, was as beautiful as lotus. The incident, Dhairyam, Vilalapa Shoka. This incident really tested Suniti's tolerance. And Vilalapa Shoka, Davagnina, Shoka Davagnina Vilalapa, and she lamented. Shoka Davagnina, like fire burning and creates a heating experience like that. The incident was unbearable to Suniti's patience. She began to burn as if in forest fire. In her grief, she became just like a burnt leaf. Her face is described as Smrati Saroja Shriya. From a beautiful lotus flower, she became like a burnt leaf and lamented. As she remembered the words of her co-wife, her bright lotus-like face filled with tears, and thus she spoke. Text number 17. Dirgham shashvanti vrajinasya param apashyati balakam ahabala मामंगलम तात परेश ममष्ठा भुंक्ते जनो यत् पर दुख दस्त. Very interesting. There's incredible contrasting personalities in discussion here. Suruchi versus Suniti. Suruchi only blessed inauspiciousness in the life of Dhruva as well as in the life of Dhruva's mother, Suniti. How would Suniti react to this? It teaches a very important lesson for all of us how to face such conflicting situations. So, how did Suniti? So, just to quickly reflect on the situation, if something like this has to happen to us, if our son has to come running to us, or a friend of yours, or brother or sister have to come running to you, and that person have been your whoever that relative, he went to play outside, and the friends outside spoke like this, and not only found fault with that person, found fault with you also. How should we react? A beautiful, beautiful point here. And the first thing Suniti says, Dhruva, calm down. What your mother have said, co-wife have said, or stepmother have said, is indeed correct. I am not the favorite queen of your father. Let us not wish inauspiciousness for your stepmother. Because otherwise, what's the difference between Suruchi and Suniti? My question here is for more deeper reflection. What is the difference between us and the karmis if we also act like them? If we also give a response like them? She was also breathing very heavily, and she did not know the factual remedy for the painful situation. Not finding any remedy, she said to her son, My dear son, do not wish for anything inauspicious for others. Why? Anyone who inflicts pain upon others suffer himself from that pain. You don't have to. They will themselves suffer from the pain that they have created for other. Next. Satyam suracha vihitam bhavan me yadhur bhagaya udare grihitah sanyena vruddha cha vilajate yam bharyeti vavodam idaspatirma. Sunuti said, my dear boy, whatever has been spoken by Suruchi is so because the king, your father, does not consider me his wife or even his maid servant. He feels ashamed to accept me. Therefore, it is a fact that you have taken birth from the womb of an unfortunate woman, and by being fed from her breast, you have grown up. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right. Text number 19. So, three reasons. Three response. First response, do not wish inauspicious, because that what they have done will itself with time burn them up. We should not act like them. Reason number two, it's a fact what she said. I'm an unfortunate. Your father doesn't consider me worthy. Reason number three, what a high elevation, the devotion of Suniti is here. And what she says, my dear boy, whatever. I guess we should recite this verse also. Atishatatta vimatat Atishatatta vimatsaraswam Uktam samatrapi yad avyalikam आराधयाधुक्सजपादपद्मम् यत् इच्छसे अध्यासनम् उत्तमो यथा. My dear boy, whatever has been spoken by Suruchi, your stepmother, although very harsh to hear, is factual. Therefore, if you desire at all to sit on the same throne as your stepbrother, Uttama, then give up your envious attitude and immediately try to execute the instructions of your stepmother. Without further delay, you must engage yourself in worshipping the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, beautiful lesson here, turning a curse into a blessing. It is only possible for a non envious person. If there was any envy in Suniti's heart, she would ask for revenge. She said, let's march to the chambers of Uttanapad. आर या पार, आज तो सामना हो ही जाए अच्छाई का और बुराई का. So Suniti saw an opportunity even in the most troubled times. And Dhruva was fortunate to have an advisor like his mother. So one advisor is Dhruva have got in the form of Mother Suniti. And one advisor we had like Duryodhana had advisor like Shakuni or Karna. So we were yesterday talking about coach, advisor, and mentor. It is so important. By the way, we should not have multiple advisors or mentors. We should have one or two maximum. Ideally, it should be one only, not even two. And we should be so careful in selecting that advisor. So the war of Kurukshetra, the fortune was changed because Krishna was the advisor for Arjuna. The Kurukshetra war occurred just because Duryodhana had advisor like Shakuni, primarily Shakuni and Karna, because Karna was also very eager for war. The whole Ramayana, the journey of Lord Ram, the 14 years of exile occurred because Kekai had an advisor like Mantra. Do you see? सारा का सारा खेल एडवाइजर का ही है. Behind the scene, they're running the show. And creating the success into failure, failure into success, like that. So, as a teacher has a right to protect, and therefore he may find faults. Like Srila Prabhupada would warn his disciples of closing too closely with his god brothers, who are particularly envious of Srila Prabhupada's success. So that is not out of envy. That is done with the concern to protect his students. That's a difference here. But Suruchi, she had no reason, like that to act. Text number 20. यस्याङ्घ्रिपद्मं परिचर्य विश्वा विभावनायात गुणा विपत्ते अजोऽध्या तिष्ठत् खलो पारमेष्ठ्यम् पदं जितात्मा श्वसनाभिवन्द्यम्. So Niti continues, the Supreme Personality God is so great that simply by worshipping the lotus feet, your great grandfather Brahma acquired the necessary qualification to create this universe. Although he is unborn, he is the chief of all living creatures, is situated in that exalted post because of the mercy of the Supreme Lord, whom even the great yogis worship by controlling the mind and regulating the life air. So Suniti is giving the hint what to do and why to pray to Lord Vishnu. Text number 21. Suniti informed her son, your grandfather Swayambhuva Manu executed great sacrifices with distribution of charity, and thereby with unflinching faith and devotion, he worshipped and satisfied the Supreme Personality Godhead. By acting that way, he achieved the great success and material happiness and afterwards achieved liberation, which is impossible to attain by worshipping the Devtas. So she justifying why you should go and worship Vishnu. And the advice to worship Vishnu was given by whom? Suruchi. And Suniti said, what your stepmother has said is indeed correct. Like that. Text number 22, the last two verses for today. Tamev vasashraya bhratyavasalam mumukshubhe mragyapadajapadhatam ananya bhave nija dharma bhavite manasavasthapya bhajasva paurusham. Wow, these are classic verses, classic verses. I mean, this verse is worth memorizing. If you don't mind, I'll just like to go to the Sanskrit of this. Tameva sashraya bhratyavasalam. So now she's giving the third reason. After describing about Brahma and the Swamo Manu, they became successful because of the blessing of the Lord Vishnu. And she says, Bhratyavasalam, hey Dhruva, my dear son, Lord Vishnu is Bhratya Vasalam. So he is a protector. Nobody can love as much as Vishnu loves us. Even me, who I love you dearly, I combined like me, expanded millions of times. We together, million of times, cannot give you affection as much as Vishnu can give you affection. What a beautiful verse. Tameva vasashraya bhratyavasalam mumukshubhe mratya padabjapadhitam ananya bhave nija dharma bhavite manasya vasthapya bhajasva purusham. My dear boy, you also should take shelter. That Supreme Lord was very kind to his devotees. Satyam vidhatam nijabhratya bhashitam. From Prahlad Maharaj. Satyam vidhatam nijabhratya bhashitam. Why did Lord appear? Because Satyam vidhatam nijabhratya bhashitam. Nijabhratya. Bhratya refers to servant or son. Nijabhratya, because Lord considered Prahlad Maharaj as his. Bhashitam, because he has spoken. Yes, the Lord is there in this pillar. Satyam vidhatam nijabhratya bhashitam. So just to fulfill or make his words true, the Lord appeared in that form. My dear boy, you should take, who is very kind to his devotees, persons seeking liberation from the cycle of birth and death, always take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in devotional service, becoming purified by executing your allotted occupation. Just situate the Lord in your heart. and without waiting for a moment, engage always in his service. Let's take a look what Prabhupada translates what Suruchi is saying to Dhruva. Middle of the purport, the seventh or the eighth line from top. She said, "You came to me crying, O Dhruva, having been insulted by your stepmother, but I am unable to do any good for you. But Krishna is so kind to his devotees that if you go to him, then the combined kindness of millions of mothers like me will be surpassed by his affectionate and tender dealings. When everyone else fails to mitigate one's misery, Krishna is able to help the devotee. Example, Draupadi. Queen Suniti also stressed the process of approaching the Lord is not easy, but is sought after great sages. Queen Suniti indicated by instruction that Dhruva was only a small child and it was not possible for him to purify himself by the way of karmakanda, but by the process of bhakti yoga. Even a child can follow. That is a special significance of bhakti yoga. Therefore, she advised him not to accept worship of devatas or any of the process, but take to the process of bhakti. And last verse for today, text number 23. Nanyam tatha padma palasha lochana dukkha chiddam te mragayami kanchanaha यो मर्ग्यते हष्टगृहिता पद्मया श्रिया इतरे अंग विमर्ग्यमानाया. So Mother Lakshmi has been addressed here, that even she serves Lord Vishnu. My dear Dhruva, as far as I am concerned, I do not find anyone who can mitigate your distress except for the Lord, whose eyes are like lotus petal. Many devtas such as Brahma seek the pleasure of the goddess of fortune, but the goddess of fortune herself with the lotus flower in her hand is always ready to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A beautiful purport about the glories of the Lord in comparison to devtas. That completes our discussion for today, and the reason or the background story of why Dhruva Maharaj left for the forest. Text number 24, directly inspired by Suniti, indirectly inspired by Suruchi, and giving up envy from his heart or revengeful feeling towards his stepmother or even Uttama or father, he walks into the forest. So, where did this pastime had taken place? So, next to Kanpur, there is a place called as Bittur at the banks of Ganges. The Tilla is still there, which is said to be the palace of Suniti, and there is a beautiful temple and also there. It's a beautiful place. And from there, up you can call it Kanpur literally, and from there, the Dhruva Maharaj walked up to Vrindavan, Madhuvan. And on the way, while traveling from there, he met Narad Muni. Narada Muni bhajaye veena. You cannot have any story and not have Narad Muni in it. That is. So, somebody was recently asking me, I'll conclude with that last point. He said, Prabhuji, I was reading first canto story of Narada boy. And when I read the section that how Narada boy lost his mother, went to the forest, sitting in Samadhi, had a darshan of the Lord, and the Lord disappeared. And Narada boy began to cry, and the Lord appeared in front of him and said, not appeared, in the celestial voice spoke to him, boy, you're not yet ready to see my darshan. Continue living your life, practicing bhakti. At the end of the life, when you're successful, I'll take you back. And the man asked, isn't Lord so cruel? Why Lord had to do like this? Unnecessarily gave pain to the boy. First of all, why did he appear if he didn't want it to appear at all? So I said, wait a second, can you just take a chill pill here? I said, look at the end result. What blessing did Lord give to that boy? He said, became Narada Muni. I said, you can only raise such a kind of question because you do not understand the glories of Narada Muni. Narada Muni is literally the spiritual master. Narada, Prahlad, Dhruva, we read about Prachetas. You name anyone, for everyone. Not only that, you read about any pastime of the Lord, Narada Muni is there. Who was the one who went and told Lord Shiva? तुम्हारी पत्नी नजर नहीं आ रही है आज? अकेले बैठे हो बैनियन ट्री के नीचे, कहाँ है भाभी जी? Who was that person? That was also Narad Muni. He went and gave the good news. Now time for speed up the process because Vishnu has to appear. So Narad Muni will meet Dhruva Maharaj and will guide him. We'll pause here for today. So 2 points that we saw here, or maybe 3 points we can say. The first point was attachment versus affection. Attachment means you cannot say no. Affection means you do not want to say no. That was highlighted today from Uttanapa's character. We also reflected on the envious nature of Suruchi, reflecting upon, Prabhupada says, this is the conditioned nature of feminine potency. This is how it happens. Although she had no reason to be worried, but unnecessarily spoke so harshly to an innocent boy like Dhruva. And third, Suniti's devotion proved only a devotee is capable and qualified to transform calamity into a blessing. Or, in other words, we can say, how much life may become hopeless, but if you take shelter of Vishnu, take shelter of Krishna in our case, everything will be all okay. Why? Bhratya Vatsalam. The Lord is the protector of his devotees. With that, I pause here for today. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Dhruva Maharaj ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai. Anyone has any comment or question, we can take it. Tomorrow we read from text number 24. Yes, Adar Shrimani Prabhu.
In the first verse, some great personality.
Can the online audience hear you? It is very important that our online audience also get to hear.
In the first verse, some great personality were mentioned. And it is mentioned in the human body. So where are they in the human body? And so semen का mechanism है.
The concept of semen exists within the male body. I have not come across any section where it is referred to a feminine body like that. What is there? I don't know about it. I don't know much about physiology of that, but it's from male body. Retaha.
So वो जो ये सब personality mention किए नारायण,
Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandan. Oh, yeah. I mean, correct. Male body in that way. But they're not called in the context of first male and first woman. Their attribute is given more to Swayambhuva Manu and Shatrupa. But because they're born in this creation, they have to have either of the form. When Rudra was also born, Rudra also had a male body. That's the reason he got married to Satina. But as such, why Swayambhuva Manu and Shatrupa is said to be the first male and female? Because from them, the human race started. And not only for human race, all the 8.4 million species came from them. Because Brahma was creating for what purpose? Brahma was creating because it was his responsibility to give different kind of bodies to those jivatmas. And when 4 Kumars were born, he said, well, help me in procreation. So they were also supposed to create like Brahma created, from their mind, from their eyes, nostril, whatnot. But they said, we're not getting involved in it. There was no lady at that point of time. And then when that didn't happen, Brahma became angry. And from that anger, Rudra appeared. Even there is no discussion of that time. And then again, when he saw, I although asked Rudra to create, he created all the demoniac class. There's no female mention at that point of time. Then he thought, okay, well, I have to do something else. And then manifested, when he was thinking like that, by the inspiration of the Lord, then manifested one male and one female body. And third canto, we read about it, that how he created sexual attraction between them. All there's illusion, but they feel sexual attraction, and that sexual potencies are put into different aspects of the body. That all was discussed in third canto. So male gets attracted to certain feature of female body. Similarly, female get attracted towards male in certain features. And this is very important for us to know, to protect ourselves in that way. So that was done. And from them, through the act of copulation, then all the progeny began. So everyone came from them, like that. For example, Pasuti got married to Daksha, and they had their generation, the descendants, and from that descendant, one of the daughter got married to, or 13 daughter got married to Kashyapa. Kashyapa had, particularly among 13 daughters, he had two wives, Diti and Aditi. Aditi se Devtas hai, Aditi se, Aditi se Daityas hai, Aditi se Devtas hai. And like that, all 8.4 million species happened, primarily from Swayambhuva and Shatrupa. In that way, it is said. All right? Mother Palika, your hand is up. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Pranam. Prabhuji, I had a question relating to you said affection and attachment. Like sometime it happens that we know that people are wrong, but still we are not able to correct them because maybe when we say something, they are not ready to hear at that point of time, or maybe they will,
That
have
is
more.
a different situation.
Okay.
You know, people, anyways, you don't have any control, influence over. That's a different thing. For example, if you're walking on the street, you see somebody doing something wrong, telling them that person, you may have a doubt, will he listen to you or not? The idea of attachment is you are afraid if I tell him no, then he may leave me or he may become upset with me. So, for your own selfish gain, you're not willing to say no. That's a point.
Okay, Prabhuji. Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. So,
So,
Prabhuji,
which
like in
means
other
we,
case,
yeah, go ahead, mother. I mean, is that
yeah.
okay?
So,
Making sense? So
yeah,
there
yes,
is inherent
Prabhuji.
insecurity. Now, for example, let's say a child, let's say a grown-up son, is anyways not listening to you, which means he doesn't have any respect for you. There is no question of insecurity. Anyways, he doesn't belong to you anymore. You getting it? Insecurity means the person listens to you, follows you, but your fear is if I tell him one correction, then he may stop listening to me. So when you're saying that the person anyways doesn't listen, then that doesn't occur only. All right?
Okay, Prabhuji. So, for Prabhuji, on the other hand, so like, should we again like try to make them understand or just leave them? Can you suggest on this? What should we do in our practical life?
So, in terms of helping others understand, as proposed in one of the purpose in Bhagavad Gita, uh, it can be done for those who have given us the right to give them direction. If in case they have not given us the right, now of course that is true in the relation of teacher and student. When relation of mother father, having a son and daughter, that relation is by default. There is not something you're going to go and ask a child, so child, although you're born from me, do you give me the right to correct you? नहीं,
Mm-hmm.
एक चमाचा देने का तुरंत अपना स्टैंडर्ड गुड ओल्ड डेज पहले माताओं के हाथ बड़े फ्री हैंड हुआ करते थे पूछना नहीं, मतलब नहीं है, बेटा अपना है, लुक ना यशोदा मैया, did she went and asked somebody, यार Krishna doesn't listen to me, should I go and ask him, are you going to listen to me, should I tell you or not? वह भाड़ में जाओ, झाड़ उठाई भागने लगी. That's it. So in a relationship like that, of course, when somebody have grown up, so they would show by their conduct that they don't give a damn about you. Then what to do? There's no point of saying. So if there is an affection, if there is some love, there we have the right in our relationship. But if that person have already, let's say you may say something to your son, but let's say your relatives, your nephew is coming. Now nephew, you may not have that relationship there. Maybe if you have raised a nephew, then maybe. But if not, then you can't treat the nephew as your son. And meeting him after 15 years, and you see him, let's say, after eating, not washing his hand. And you become wild, you nonsense boy. You don't know about cleanliness standards. Unless he comes to your house and you have deities at your home, and he takes his plate and keeps it in the sink where you wash deity's plate, and you become wild at him. You fool! You destroyed my standard. You can chastise your son, and therefore Prabhupada said that old way of teaching daughter-in-law was the mother-in-law will chastise her own daughter, and the daughter won't be wondering, मैंने तो प्लेट रखी नहीं, मुझे क्यों डांट पड़ रही है? These are the tricks of the game, how you deal with others. And the daughter, afterwards, she will understand. Now, what will happen? She may go and cry, but ultimately she'll come back to mother only. Mother knows it. But the daughter-in-law will be thinking, oh, looks like I did it. I should be careful next time not to do it. This is the ways they would handle it. Okay, Mother.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So we pause here today. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.